Happy Tuesday. So today I have James with us, who is an internal motivator to facilitate change throughout humanity, which is the foundation in which he built his new company called Neurohacker Collective. As the organization's co-founder and CEO, he motivates, directs, and instills the culture that permeates throughout the company, which is something that's so important these days, because I think culture definitely helps in retaining employees, because a lot of people have found out that money might not be everything. A lot of people want to be a part of something greater than themselves, and it's the culture that wants people to stay because they feel like they belong to something. Let's welcome James on 10 Minutes of Hiding Wisdom, where he will tell us about what he has learned along the way and how we can implement his learnings in our day-to-day life. Hi James, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on. It's good to be here.
Of course. So James, can you tell us about your journey so far? And we'll get to your company later, but we'd love to hear about how you started your own company and the journey that led to it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess, so Neurohacker's not the first company I've started. I've basically been a serial entrepreneur most of my life.
Okay.
I didn't really fit into a lot of the standard boxes. I was homeschooled off and on growing up. I tried traditional college, but dropped out a couple times because that wasn't really my orientation. So I actually started running companies, I guess, when I was 17. And yeah, I started off in education. I ran a vocational college for about 10 years and then moved into the cannabis space and built quite a number of companies there and did a lot of the legislative work, and then built Neurohacker. So I've just always had a very strong motivation to create, with a sort of specific bend in creating organizations that are designed to improve quality of life at scale. So that's
Okay.
largely been the journey.
Okay, curious, because you've been an entrepreneur, you started your own companies. I think one thing that I'm just curious as to where did the ideas come for regarding companies? Was it like a need in the market, or was it like something that you realized that could be of use to people? Like, for example, this company that you founded, where did the idea come from?
Yeah, so I mean, with Neurohacker, there was a few different things that led to it, but largely it was actually sort of my own healing journey and realizing. So I started running companies very young, and I started running some larger organizations than I really had the talent for. So I worked extremely hard, and though I was passionate about what I was doing, I burned myself out quite badly and had a lot of health problems that came from it. So I had gone down my own journey of figuring out what I could do to heal the burnout, the cognitive issues, the depression, everything that kind of came with severe burnout. And I found some really extraordinary solutions that existed, but I also realized that they were very inaccessible. And like, being already in the natural health field, I had access to things that most people didn't have access to. And being sort of an experimental person by nature, I was willing to do more cutting edge treatments. But some of those treatments really profoundly changed the quality of my life. And I was like, this could be wildly impactful for hundreds of thousands or millions of people, but this kind of thing is not really accessible to most people. It's too expensive, it's too far to travel to, it's whatever. So, largely the impetus for Neurohacker was, how do we take the very best of health technology that exists and be able to make it sort of easily accessible to as many people as humanly possible, to both improve the quality of their life, and then to, part of the other impetus in starting Neurohacker was the idea that if we could have hundreds of thousands or millions more people that were profoundly more intelligent and were more compassionate and more empathetic, that this could be something that would help solve a lot of the hard problems of the world.
Wow.
And so it was, not only could we improve the quality of life for the people we were directly touching, but could we also give them the kinds of capacity and education that would move their use of intelligence and capacity for not only personal gain, but to help the world at large.
No,
So,
that's absolutely amazing. I think your company, as in like, for the longest time, there's this been misconceived notion regarding how something must go wrong in a person's life for them to deal with anxiety, to get with depression. But now I think a lot of people are recognizing that depression might be genetics, might be a cause of different factors. So it's to see companies like you that out there that exist, that are understanding that different factors influence depression, mental health, and are recognizing that the brain is malleable in order for it to adapt is something that's absolutely amazing. And it sounds like you're on the right track, especially because you went through your own journey and came up with a product that would help millions of people. So I'm very inspired, and I admire the effort that you're taking to make a difference in so many people's lives. So thank you for that, James.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Of course. So, James, my next question for you would be, what exactly does Neurohacker do? I mean, I would love, as in, like, you did touch upon it briefly, but would love to understand
Right.
in more depth about it.
Yeah, so I mean, we're really a research and development organization. We've invested very heavily in bringing together a team of world class scientists that use different types of backgrounds, but all through sort of a complex system science approach for studying human performance and human optimization, and then taking the research and being able to turn it into physical products that people can make use of. And so we're both a product company and an education company. So we take many thousands of hours to research physiological systems, understand how they work, understand how we could optimize them, and make people more resilient, more adaptable to the world they live in, and then turn those into products. And then along with that, we also publish substantial amounts of educational material, both on like additional things that people can do to increase their health, their vitality, but also to kind of give a bigger picture perspective on the way that our world works and how people can actually contribute to a better version of that.
Okay. When it comes to a lot of research, like there's been a lot of research done on the brain itself and everything. So, how do you come up with optimized techniques regarding how to build in different factors regarding the brain? Just curious.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, and it's a somewhat complex answer because there's not necessarily a specific approach. It is very dependent on like what physiological system we're working on and also what kinds of outcomes we're trying to achieve. But essentially at Neurohacker, what we do, so we don't do a lot of the fundamental bench science. So like the studies that are, deep studies on the mechanisms of action of a particular ingredient or something like that. We specialize in synthesis. So we take a lot of those formal studies that take often years to do on a single compound or a single system, and we take hundreds or in some cases thousands of those studies and basically do this meta-analysis on them to understand the field at a much higher level and
Hmm.
understand what each of those studies, when looked at collectively, mean for being able to upgrade physiology. And then we take that sort of synthesized information into product development.
Okay, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. Thank you for sharing that. The last question for you, James, would be, you mentioned before our call that your company went through a series of hiring. So we'd just be curious regarding what kind of positions does your company usually hire for? What kind of people are you interested in hiring? Because yes, there is a skill fit that is required, but then there's a cultural fit as well. So can you elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, so like we did just finish hiring several roles, so we'll probably hire more in a few months. But generally, the kinds of roles we're hiring for, as we grow, we're always adding to our science team. So that's both formulators, it's researchers, chemists, um, as well as data scientists, right? People to be able to develop studies and be able to analyze them. But then we're also a company, so we have fairly meaningful size marketing department to be able to bring awareness to the products. So we're often hiring roles for paid media managers, content creators, all things along these lines. Uh, as well as roles in supply chain, operations, finance. But most of those we actually have fairly robust team right now. So I would say generally the majority of our hiring is either in science or in marketing.
Okay, well, James, thank you so much for sharing about your wonderful company, the journey that led to it, especially how you learned from your own journey and decided that it could have helped millions of people. It's very admiring. But other than that, our time is up. It was an absolute pleasure learning about you and what you've learned along the way. And we're grateful that you shared your learnings with us to implement in our daily lives. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. It was wonderful being here.